Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the SITREP or summary for the day of 556 for the Ukraine war or special military operation in Ukraine for the 2nd September 2023. So let's start off with this statement coming from pro-Russian sources. So according to Ryba, the pro-Russian source reported that the attack, the surface drone attack against the Crimean bridge, this one that I mentioned, is supported by a certain drone. There's some those quadcopter drones. There's those operated by people on the ground. Apparently, they say that there is guidance being observed. The Ukrainian DRG or commando or agent or whatever you want to call it, maybe they say that it's probably operating around this area here, and they flew out a drone to actually help out in surveillance and reconnaissance for targets. So this actually was reported as some kind of like a big thing. From Ryba, they say that this is a threat within the country, and the Russians need to work on it. They say that this situation is also being observed by the drone strike on the Pskov transport planes. So there was this drone strike at Pskov Air Base, right? So the same thing happened over here. There is drones operating from within Russia by the Ukrainian agents or commandos, most likely probably agents. I don't think they are infiltrated, but it might be people that are already within Russia that is helping out with target acquisition and intelligence gathering. So this is something I think is worth talking about. It's very, very interesting that there is this acknowledgement. I first saw this information on pro-Ukrainian sources, but now we have the pro-Russians actually talking about it. So that's interesting. We move into the Zaporizhia front. We have a Ukrainian MiG-29 shot down over Bakhmut. Bakhmut is over here, and over this region here, MiG-29 got shot down by a Russian fighter jet, and this is reported in today's Russian report. And over in the Orikhiv sector, so this is Orikhiv. At the Orikhiv sector, the Ukrainian forces continue their fighting within the Robotyne region. We're fighting towards Verbove at Robotyne region and in the eastern part of Novoprokopivka. At Robotyne, the reports from the Russian Defense Ministry in today's and yesterday's daily report reported that the Ukrainians 47, 63, 46, 82nd are operating, and the 15th National Guard is operating within this region here, and they are still fighting in the yesterday or the past 24 hours, as per the reports brought from the Russian Defense Ministry in today's report, that the 47th and 82nd Airborne is also still operating and attacking in the Robotyne and Verbove region. The pro-Ukrainian source Myro Shinikov reported that there is fierce battles being fought near Novoprokopivka. So most likely it is probably within this region here. And given that Deep State UA's gray zone extends almost something around this region here, it might be a case where the Ukrainians are making some attack in this area. So so this is something to take note. And Ryba actually reported that the Ukrainians are currently gathering up a force around Robotyne to try to launch a new attack. And the Russians basically have evacuated from the southern outskirts. It's unclear because I haven't really seen the Ryba's mapping on this area here. I'm not sure if this is the place they redraw to or they are redrawing from. This is actually the big question. Are they redrawing into this line? This line, is it redrawing to this line or actually from this line? So we do not know what is the situation over here. Deep State UA's mapping shows that the Russians still have at least this area here as firm control, not gray zone. So this area here is the gray zone. So depending on the situation, we will continue to monitor. The Russian Defense Ministry continues to use the word Robotyne as fighting to be in this region. So it's hard to say what is happening. The deep state US gray zone also overlaps known trench lines, but I don't think but these gray zones, it could be a case where, so because the firm control is actually only in the town, in the settlement of Robotyne, so it could be a case where the Russians are unable to hold positions all the way to the end of the trench line. So maybe they stop all the way at the halfway point, and they actually make their defense around here. So they cannot go all the way to the end because the Ukrainians do have fire control on this area here. So that could be what is happening, which means that the Ukrainians may not have full control over all this trench line at all. So this is also, I think, worth talking about. The Russians also launched a counter attack on the western part of Verbove. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, they say that assault troops, army, air support, and heavy flamethrower systems are attacking west of the village of Verbove, and they actually attacked the 82nd Airborne Assault Brigades of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. So there is a push in the western part of Verbove. This in the same report, they also mentioned about Ukrainians attacking Verbove. So that's why I find it really interesting that the Ukrainians are attacking while the Russians are attacking as well. So most likely the Ukrainians are trying to exploit this weak point at this moment. I think this is where they are trying to exploit, while the Russians are trying to attack the Ukrainian weak point, because this area here is a salient, and this salient is a bit deep, a bit too deep, because there is you would want the defense line to be more straight. So probably this is a weak spot for the Ukrainians, and the Ukrainians are actually trying to go towards Prokopivka. So if the Russians hitting from the rear, this would just distract the Ukrainians away from doing their offensive. So this is probably what is happening over in the Orikhiv sector. We move into the Velika Novosilka sector. In this sector, we do not have actually any reports of fighting except over at Levatny. The Russian Defense Ministry reported, I would say quite surprisingly, that they are attacking, they are on the offensive. Units of the Vostok group of forces with the support of Air Force and artillery attacked the 38th and 36th Brigade of the Ukrainian Marines near Levatny. The other location that was mentioned, so this is Levatny, so they're attacking in this direction just on the western part of Prione. And the other in the same report, the other location mentioned was as Shevchenko, which is over here. So previously we have reports from Surya Maps talking about on the 29th of August, talking about Ukrainians making an offensive action, managed to capture some ground north of Shevchenko. This time around, it is the Russian Defense Ministry themselves talking about them making an offensive action in today's report. So this, I'm not sure what this is supposed to mean. I got a feeling that this might, I'm not sure. Maybe like I'm like a 30% sure that the Russians might have just started their own counteroffensive, their autumn offensive, to put it that way. So the Ukrainians start their summer offensive, so now it's the Russians' turn. So this might be a start, because why? The number of reports of attacks has increased by quite a bit suddenly. The Russian Defense Ministry, now we are in the Donetsk run, also talked about an attack against Ukrainian forces at Voleda. So this they attacked the Ukrainian 72nd Mechanized Brigade with ground units supported by Air Force and artillery, and they are attacking Ukrainian forces in the region of Voleda. So this series of attacks make me feel like this seems like a start of an offensive of some sort, and this might also have some relationship with the information yesterday that I reported that the Russian forces redeployed airborne forces into the Velika Novosilka sector and the Orikhiv sector. So that means the second theory might be correct, that the airborne forces is here to start a counteroffensive. But of course, I'm just jumping my gun at this moment. We have to continue to monitor to see more intel and information for the next few days to confirm this hypothesis. But to see the Russian Defense Ministry themselves report that they are attacking Voleda, Shevchenko, as well as Levatny, this is quite interesting, if you ask me. With attacks in this direction, you can see that this is quite interesting. With the Ukrainians previously conquered this area here, yeah, we shall continue to monitor. Over at the Novo-Mikhailivka region, the Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported fighting in the area of Novo-Mikhailivka. In the same report, they also mentioned about South Krasnohorivka, that the Russians are attacking in the southern part. And this is yet another information that suggests that the Russians might be in some kind of offensive mood, I would say, because we have to understand that this is the first report of fighting in the southern part of Krasnohorivka in a long time. So this is very unusual. And the Russian Defense Ministry reported that they defended against the Ukrainians at Marinka as well at Staro-Mikhailivka. So the Ukrainians are also attacking. They are still also on the offensive. So things are getting a bit hot. Despite that, it seems like, you know, things are dying down due to the end of summer, where the rainy season is expected to muddy up the entire ground. But so far, it seems like everything start to ramp up again. But maybe it's just this day's report. Maybe it's nothing more. In the north of Donetsk city, we have the Avdiivka front. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry also reported Russians doing offensive action on the eastern part of Zhivany. So, which is here. And this is actually a very significant place, because like I mentioned previously, when the Avdiivka front was still a pretty big thing, the Russian forces can push all the way up and capture Lastokine, cut this road, and Avdiivka will be operationally encircled, because there's no roads out of Avdiivka. This is the only road that is actually leading out of Avdiivka. So I would say, this is actually quite interesting that the Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported about this fighting east of Zhivany. And the Ukrainian forces themselves are attacking Vasily, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, with this attack again this direction. So everybody is making their move. Maybe it's not an offensive. Maybe it is just both sides are trying their best to improve their tactical positions before the front line get frozen due to the muddy season. So we move into the Bakhmut front. At the Bakhmut front, we have continued fighting by the Ukrainians attacking in the southern part of Bakhmut front. With fighting reported at Ozeryanivka, Kodyamivka, Andriivka, and Klishchiivka. Most of the one in the southern part, the bottom three, is by Myroshnikov, the pro-Ukrainian source, reporting all in this same sentence or paragraph: Andriivka, Kodyamivka, and Zeryanivka. So which is these three sources. At Klishchiivka itself, the Russian pro-Russian source Ryba reported that on the 2nd of September, the Ukrainians 5th and 80th attacked the Klishchiivka Bakhmut front line. And Myroshnikov, of course, mentioned about fighting at this region here. And in today's report, the Russian Defense Ministry reported that they defended against the Ukrainian forces over at Klishchiivka as well. And so fighting is still ongoing pretty fiercely. It looks like mostly it's still the Ukrainians are doing the offensive, but the Russian Defense Ministry also mentioned that the Russian troops are improving their positions close to Klishchiivka, which means that the Russian forces are also conducting offensive operations to improve their tactical positions over at this town, and we shall continue to see what's going to happen. We move into in the just off Bakhmut city, we have Ukrainians attacking this region as well, and this is reported by the Russian Defense Ministry as the Ukrainians sent attacks near Bakhmut or Artyomov. So Ryba mentioned about the same thing, talking a bit more vague about the frontline Klishchiivka to Bakhmut, and in today's report, the Russians continue to mention about fighting over at Artyomov, which is Bakhmut. So not sure which is the vector of attack the Ukrainians chose. It is not mentioned. We shall continue to see where this goes. In the northern part of Bakhmut front, we have fighting reported at near Dubovo-Vasilivka. Dubovo-Vasilivka is here, and the Ukrainians probably are attacking in this region here, just south of Orikovo-Vasilivka. This is my guess. And in the north of this position, we have Ukrainians attacking Zaliniansky, or near Zaliniansky. This is first reported by Ryba on the 2nd of September. talking about Ukrainians doing reconnaissance by combat. And then the Russian Defense Ministry on the next day, today's report acknowledged this this attack. So the Ukrainians are attacking Zalynyansky. It's unclear in which direction. Is it from the highway region or is it through the farmlands? This one we do not know, but fighting is definitely starting to flare up again after yesterday's SITREP, which was pretty much a snooze fest. The Ukrainian forces actually reinforced this position at Stuposhki. According to the information from pro-Russian sources, they reported that the 95th Airborne Brigade's 13th Battalion was transferred to Stuposhki, and this looks like they are going to use this to conduct more reinforcement or attacks, probably to wrap up the battle over at Klishchiivka before the onset of autumn. We move on to the Siversk front. Over at the Siversk front, we have fighting reported at Rozdolivka. This is the part of the same report that mentioned about the fighting at Zalynyansky. So this attack here are together, and it could be some kind of a pincer. If you look at the vector, they are all going to go towards Soledar. We over at the that's all. I think that's all from the Siversk front. Over at the Kreminna front, this is Kreminna. Let me turn. Sorry, I was disturbed by the Steam notifications. So Kreminna, and there is Ukrainians attacking within the forest region, with fighting being reported within the Serebranske forestry in the Torske region. Looks like this report got deleted by the resetting of the map. Anyway, let me see, 1st of Sep. Maybe this is not. So there is fighting reported near Krychorivka. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, we have fighting reported at Dibrova. Again, same thing. Also by the Russian Defense Ministry. And then also in the region south of Kuzmine. So the Ukrainian forces are making major attempts within the entire front line along the Serebranske forestry. The Russians themselves are also conducting their own fire missions or assault missions, with reports from yesterday and today talking about them hitting Ukrainian 63rd and 67 Mechanized Brigade units, and in today's report they added 21st. And this attack is at Torske Kuzmine. So this is Kuzmine, and so the Russians are attacking nearby here, and they are also attacking in the area of Torske, hitting Ukrainian troops within this area here. They also then mentioned about hitting Ukrainian forces at Dibrova. So in today's report, which means that they are also attacking this region here. So is a trading of blows, and is a very, very common thing over in the Kreminna front. Yampolivka was also mentioned by the Russian Defense Ministry on today's report. So yeah, very, very interesting front line over here. We move into the Svatove front. This is Svatove. At the Svatove front, the fighting reported continue to be reported over in the Novoyehorivka region, with the Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported Russians attacking on the 2nd of September. And the Russians themselves instead say that the Ukrainians are attacking near Serhievka. They say that the 32nd and the 43rd Mechanized Brigade is operating in the area of Serhievka. So they are making this push against this settlement here. So yeah, so it's very interesting. I wonder if these are actually the same fighting. Maybe they are fighting in the middle here. So let's see how this goes from the Svatove front. In the Kupyansk front, as mentioned, the Russian Kupyansk offensive has ended, first reported on the 1st of September by Ryba, the pro-Russian source. And indeed, we didn't really see any reports of fighting in this area here. Suddenly everything has went dead. The only one is the Russian Defense Ministry mentioned that they launched an attack near Kaislivka. So this is the only offensive action being reported by any of my major primary sources. They say that the Russian forces, with the support of Air Force and artillery, attacked the 103rd Territorial Defense. So it's also interesting to see that the Territorial Defense are actually deployed over this in the area of Kaislivka, and which means that these are just holding units. The territory defense job are usually to hold ground, and the regular military units are sent on offensive actions. So the Russians are attacking in this area here. Maybe they are trying to draw the Ukrainian forces, on a drive of quite a number of kilometers away, like 15 kilometers away from the Sinkivka region. And maybe if they drive away, the Russians will hit again. Left feint, right hook kind of thing. So anyway, that's all from Kupyansk, and that's it. This is a SITREP or summary for the day of 556 for the 2nd of September, and I'll see you in the next update.